Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Welcome, everyone. It's Thursday, and this is Conversations with Bob. He's right here, there. Depending on if you're Instagram, he's here. If you're on Facebook, he's here. So Bob is here. We had a guest scheduled, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to jump on with me and my friend Bob. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about anxiety and stress and a little bit about depression in adults. I talk to a lot of adults, obviously, in the practice, and I see a lot of moms bringing in their kiddos. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we see with some of that. Also, I wanted to remind you guys that next Wednesday night at 6:30 in the Tenant Center, hey, Aaron, we're having a talk on chiropractic, essential oils, and stress. So some of the things that we're going to talk about here, I'm actually going to talk about there. So I wanted to give you guys just a little preview about what we'll be talking about next week and how we may be able to help you and maybe even give you a couple tips. So that's what I'm going to do today. I hope everyone's doing awesome. We're already in the second week, kind of. Today's the 8th, I think. Yep, 11/8. So we're starting the second week of November. So the holidays are here. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So I hope everyone's doing well and hanging on to your goals. We still have time to reach our goals, our 2018 goals. Biffer! People aren't going to know what I'm talking about. It's going to look really weird, but who cares? This is my Facebook Live, so Instagram Live. So you still have time to reach your goals, y'all, right? So there's 7 weeks left in the year. You could lose weight. You could get in better shape. You could save some money. You could spend more time with your kids or your spouse. Whatever your goals were for 2018, you still have time. And remember, whatever we do now sets us up for 2019. So if you wait till January 1st, I'm just going to do whatever until January 1st, then you're going to dig yourself a deeper hole. So I would encourage you to put the brake on just a little bit and, jump back on, like get back on your eating, go to the gym, just commit to a couple days a week or go for a walk, spend a little bit more time with your spouse, whatever it is, do those things because it's going to set us up for a totally awesome and epic 2019, which is what we all want, right? So anywho, now that I'll get off my soapbox, I apologize. But like I said, what I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today is anxiety, stress, and depression in adults. And what I'm seeing with the folks that are coming in, and especially with the moms. I see a lot of moms since we've been building our pediatric portion of the practice. Okay, so what's happening here? What we're seeing is that the kids are really stressed out. The kids are coming in, they're stressed out. School, sports, they're in the chess club, they're doing all these different things. The moms are running them all over the place and it's making them crazy. One of the things we see with the moms are the moms that are in their cars all day, but they don't really go anywhere. So what I mean by that is they're always in League City or Friendswood, League City, Clear Lake, and they're just going back and forth through this part of town. It's like they're in their car all day, but they don't really go anywhere. So they get really frustrated with that, and it makes total sense. So the kids are stressed out, so the parents are stressed out. I look at the kid, they're stressed out. I look at mom and dad, and they're stressed out too. So that's what we're seeing. There's a lot of anxiety. It's a huge trending health issue in kids, the anxiety, the 6 to 17-year-olds. It has increased over 20% since 2008 to 2012, which is crazy. Kids shouldn't be stressed out. Kids shouldn't have anxiety, but it's this thing that we're seeing, and then the parents, the adults, are nonstop. The common words that we're hearing from these folks is overwhelmed, drained. They have a lot of chaos probably in their life and in their mind, because remember, thoughts are one of the stressors. We'll talk about that in a minute. They're frustrated. They have mom brain, okay? They have low energy, and they have just tons of schedule demands. So those are the types of things that we're hearing from people. We're all dealing with these sort of things in all seasons of life. So we're all in different areas of our lives, but we all have these different things going on, no matter what. And what tends to happen is we calm down and relax. So everything goes in cycles, right? And we see anxiety, and we see stress, and we see mood issues, right? With this calm, relaxing cycles that we have going on, okay? In chiropractic, we have 3 forms of stressors, right? So we have physical, chemical, and emotional. So we have physical, chemical, and emotional stressors that we talk about a lot in chiropractic. Hey, Shelly. With physical, we're going to see things like with our moms is back pain. The moms are going to have back pain from nursing issues and so forth. The driving, again, I said, they're in and out of their car, and they're just crisscrossing small parts of town. They're never really going anywhere. They're just in their car all day, driving the kids and dropping them off and such. So they get in a lot of physical pain. So we have chemical stress. Anything that we put on our bodies or in our bodies that can be toxic. And toxicity is a whole issue in and of itself, but anything that can cause problems in or on our bodies could be chemical. And then there's, of course, the emotional, where we have the ups and downs of life, right? Ups and downs of life. These things build and turn and churn, and then they turn into stress, all right? Stress is good to some extent. Those of you who have heard me speak in the past at different events and so forth know that stress is good. We're supposed to have stress, but we're supposed to have stress for a very short amount of time, but very intense, right? So being chased by the bear. We're at the watering hole, we're collecting water, here comes the bear, it chases us, we run, we get away. Woo, our stress was really high, but then we should be able to bring our stress back down, go back to the watering hole, get some water, and move on from our day. What tends to happen for us in the society that we're living in is our stress goes up, and then it might come down, and then it just kind of stays. It plateaus. So we always have this underlying stress that's happening in our system. And again, physical, chemical, and emotional, right? And it kind of builds and churns and goes, and it gets stuck on. So we have stress stuck on. You may have heard me talk about this with the kids, because we talk about this with the kids a lot, how their stress gets stuck on, and it affects their immune system, it affects their gut, it affects their emotions, it affects a lot of things. And we see the same effects in the adults, we see the same effects in the parents, okay? Got my notes. All right. So what's happening some more? Well, we have an alarm goes off. So some sort of stressor comes in, and this alarm goes off. Our body responds, and over time, it actually gets resistant. And then stress becomes the new normal. So that high stressed out state, the gas pedal stuck on, right, all the way to the right, that tachometer is all the way to the right, pedal to the metal, the stress gets stuck on, and that's where we get the anxiety, right? So that's where that anxiety is coming from. Anxiety a lot of times is fear of the future, right? There's something coming up in the future, and we're feeling anxious about it, but our tachometer is all the way to the right, we're all the way in the red all the time, we're kind of running in that red, and then when something comes along, then it just shoots us up even higher, right? And we can't handle it. So it could be a panic attack or anxiety. You know, we start to kind of feel it in our throat, these types of things. These are the types of things that are going on. And then the system shuts down. So it goes up high, it runs there, and then it shuts down. This is where depression can come in sometimes, or just getting low. Sometimes people just, their pendulum swings, they get really high and then they get really low, and they go there. It dips low because the stress has been on for too long. We're not getting a break, and the body can't sustain that. We can't sustain our foot on the pedal for that long, and just to stay in that overdrive, okay? This is where cortisol comes into play, because our body is just pumping out this cortisol. Everybody's heard the term cortisol or adrenal fatigue, these types of things. So our body is just pumping this stuff out over and over again. And what we see with these guys is we see fatigue, we see sleep issues, and hormone imbalances, okay? And we see this a lot in the teens as well. So you guys have heard me talk in the past about the teenagers and how when the gas pedal is stuck on, when their stress is stuck on, then they get to a certain point where not only are they having their normal teen hormone angst going on, but also their system has dipped very low because it just can't keep going, right? So now they've got a double whammy. They're normally kind of grumpy and angst and so forth, and they're just kind of out of fuel. Their foot is on the gas, but their body is just out of fuel, and that's what we see in the teens, okay? And they just have the inability to keep up, right? Moms, dads, it's just an inability to keep up. We can't keep up with the stress. So there's a couple things that we need to do with this. There's a couple things that we run into. So one, we need to lower the stress, whatever that means for you. Lower your stress. Making changes in your schedule, getting more sleep, making boundaries of some kind. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to look at this, but you have to lower the stress, right? The second thing that we can do is we can increase your threshold to stress. So, okay, so we can increase your threshold to stress, right? So those are the two things that we want to do, is we want to lower your stress and increase the threshold. When we increase the threshold, that means we're making you more resilient and more adaptable. So more resilient and more adaptable. So the challenges that we see with these folks, right? We see sleep issues and racing mind, right? And we see this a lot. Like, I just can't go to sleep. My mind is racing. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I thought about my day, that thing I should have done, or the technology. The technology plays a big role here. We sit on our phones at night and we swipe, and it hits those receptors in the brain and it keeps us going, right? So, so tips for this is establish a bedtime routine, right? So a lot of people, a morning routine is super important, but we also need a bedtime routine. The adults need it and the kids need it. We all need a routine so our body knows that we're shutting down and it's time to go to sleep. We're going to turn off our technology. I would suggest doing a brain dump, or some kind of thing where you can write and get a lot of those thoughts out of your head. They don't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be, hey Tristan, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be punctuated. It's just a brain dump in the evening so that you can get those thoughts out of your mind and move on and go to sleep. Now, what's interesting about this brain dump is that actually a lot of really good ideas can come out of the brain dump. Your to-do list for the next day can come out of there. Different ideas for workouts or things to do with your kids or whatever it is, because a lot of times that stuff is just cycling in there and we got to get it out. So I would really suggest in the evening doing that, and then you can actually pull a to-do list out of that for the next day, and then you can also take some of that information and go, you know what, that's something I want to explore, but I'm going to do it later. But you've already got it there on the paper. The other thing you want to do before bed is avoid caffeine, sugar, and alcohol. I know, but this is super important, especially the alcohol. A lot of people aren't eating candy bars before bed or drinking coffee. It is possible. Most people aren't. Most people are having a glass of wine and some of these types of things. And I understand, but it really does interrupt our sleep patterns. So it's really important to try and not do that. Okay? All right, so the next thing. Stress and anxiousness. These are the things that we're hearing. So stressful, anxious people, they're nervous, they're overwhelmed, lots of brain fog, they feel like they're on a roller coaster, and they have no motivation. So those are the types of things that we're hearing from those folks. And this is where that depression stuff comes in. Caffeine. No caffeine before bed. This is where some of that depression stuff comes in. So again, a lack of motivation, no energy, no drive. They have a hard time shutting down, and they actually kind of stop responding to their environment. So like we talked about, they go way up, they sail along there for a long time, they're in that whole anxiety thing, and then they dip way, way, way low. With the teens, what we see is they're not as involved in school. They're not going to dances. You see them not doing well on tests, these types of things. They don't want to interact with their friends or their family because they go so low. And you know, their brain is not mature enough to deal with all this, right? Sometimes the adults' brains maybe aren't mature enough to deal with all this, but especially in the teens, right? The parents want to do well, they want to push hard. That's why they're doing it, but the teen brain, they just don't understand what's happening in there. So what can chiropractic do? I know that's what you're asking me. I know that's what you're thinking. Why is Thea talking about this stuff today? So what chiropractic can do is it stimulates the brake pedal, right? It stimulates that brake pedal like we've talked about on other Facebook Lives. So what we can do is use very specific adjustments, and we stimulate that, right? And we build that brake pedal. We build that parasympathetic system. We get it stimulated. We're stimulating that vagus nerve, right? We use the scans in the office to measure, and we can see change over time, right? People are coming in for their regular care. So every 12 visits or so, we're going to rescan so that we can see progress, not only through reduction of symptoms, but also through science. We can see it on the scans. You can't be in protection and growth at the same time. You can't be in two places at once. So you can't be in stress, anxiety, and depression and happy, joyous, and free and growth at the same time. It's just not possible for our physiology or for our body. So we need to look at this stuff. The other thing that the scans are going to do for us is they're going to tell us how stuck somebody is. How bad is the problem? What do we really need to do here? And again, where are those specific adjustments need to be made? And then thirdly, or actually fourthly, probably here, we can look at secondary organ function. So our thermal scans look really deep in the system, and they can help us determine whether or not there's anything going on deep in the system and what more we can do with that, okay? So if you're not dealing with your stress, you have to ask yourself, are you overwhelmed? What's going on with you? Is this something that can help you, your kids, or your family? We need to change these patterns in our body and our mind. Remember the three stressors: chemical, physical, and emotional. How can we make these changes? A lot of times if we can get the system to calm down, then we can get a little bit more clear-headed, and then we can make better decisions about this physical, chemical, and emotional issues that are going on. Because as long as we're racing, it's hard to make a positive decision, right? So let's calm that system down and change those patterns. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you got something out of it. If this is something that you or your family member or your dog or whatever, maybe that neighbor that's mean to you, if you think maybe I can help them, send them over. I would love to chat with them. And remember that next Wednesday night at 6:30, we'll be doing the chiropractic, essential oils, and stress, and how we can put this all together and help even more people. It's at 6:30. If you're interested, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. And next week I should be back with a normally scheduled conversations with Bob, and I'll be able to have a guest. So again, I apologize. My guest this week was unable to make it. But Bob and I are here. If there's anything we can do for you guys, please reach out. And as always, stay stoked, and I'll see you in a couple days.